Let's talk about something that most people in business avoid. Your product isn't validated until someone pays for it. Not compliments, not followers, not even clicks. Cash is the confirmation. If no one is buying, then you don't have a business, you have an idea. And I see far too many people calling themselves founders, creators, entrepreneurs, whatever the trend is, without any sales to back it up. We are not in the game of collecting attention. We're in the business of building something that creates value, and that value is measured by what people are willing to exchange for it. That means money, and that's not being aggressive, it's being clear. Here's the brutal truth most people won't tell you. If you're not selling, the market doesn't believe in you yet. That's not personal, it's not rejection, it's feedback. It's telling you that your offer isn't clear, your audience isn't ready, or your delivery isn't strong enough. You don't need to take it emotionally, you need to take it strategically. I've seen this happen over and over again. People spend months perfecting the look, designing the website, making the packaging beautiful, everything but asking for the sale. They delay the launch, they hide behind content, they tweak the font again. Why? Because putting something out there and getting a no feels like failure. But here's what you need to hear. Real entrepreneurs test fast, learn fast, and pivot fast. If nobody's buying, that's not a failure. It's an instruction. It's your cue to shift, not to give up, not to spiral, but to take ownership of what's not working and fix it. You don't need a new logo. You need a new strategy. You don't need more time. You need more conversations with customers. Sales are not just revenue. They are data. They tell you what's working and what's not. And if you don't have that data, you're guessing. Guessing doesn't scale, execution does. Sales are the heartbeat of a healthy brand. Without them, everything else is noise. I get it, selling is uncomfortable. You have to put yourself out there. You have to face objections. You have to ask people for money. But let me ask you this. How can you build a brand if you're afraid to ask for what you're worth? How can you claim to serve people if you're not giving them the opportunity to say yes? Stop hiding behind perfectionism. Stop calling yourself a founder when you haven't earned the title yet. You earn it when someone pays for your solution, not once, but repeatedly, predictably. That's proof of concept. And once you have that, now we can talk about brand. Now we can talk about scale. Now we can build something sustainable. Your first focus isn't marketing. It's not a website. It's not a color palette. It's sales, because until you sell, you don't even know if the thing you're offering is viable. Until someone puts their credit card down, all you have is a hypothesis, a dream. That's great for vision casting, but it doesn't build businesses. The fastest way to validate your idea is to ask for money, make the offer, get rejected, get feedback, refine, try again. When someone says yes, document everything. What did you say? How did you position it? Why did they buy? Now repeat that. That's how you start building systems. That's how you start scaling. That's how you start becoming a brand people recognize, not because you're clever, but because you're consistent. You don't get to skip this phase. You don't brand your way out of sales. You sell your way into becoming a brand. And if this feels like pressure, it should, because pressure creates results. You're not here to play small. You're not here to pretend. You're here to build something that matters, something that changes lives, but you can't do that if you're afraid to get in the arena, and the arena is where selling happens. So let's stop making excuses. Let's stop confusing activity with results. Sales are the scorecard. Sales are the truth. Sales are the proof of concept. And until you've got consistent sales, nothing else matters. You're either building a brand that sells, or you're building a fantasy that fails. Would you like me to continue with the next keynote in the same tone? Let's be clear. Branding is not your color palette. It's not the font you chose. It's not your website design or how good your Instagram looks. Those are tools. They're supporting assets, but they are not the brand. Your brand is built by the results you deliver and the reputation that follows. You can have the most polished visuals, the most curated feed, and even the slickest logo. But if nobody is buying, none of that matters, because real branding isn't about being pretty, it's about being profitable. And if you're focused more on how your brand looks than how it performs, then you're not building a business, you're building a vanity project. I'm going to say something that might feel uncomfortable. Branding is not for you. It's not about what makes you feel creative or unique. It's about what makes your audience act. If your brand isn't moving people to buy, to trust, to engage, to refer, then it's not working. Full stop. Branding is results driven. That means every part of it, from your messaging to your visuals to your offer, should point back to one goal: creating demand. And demand shows up in conversions, in customers, in sales. Likes aren't conversions, comments aren't conversions. Real branding leads to real money in the bank. Here's where most people get stuck. They confuse recognition with reputation. Recognition is someone seeing your stuff online and saying, "Oh yeah, I know them." Reputation is someone seeing your name and immediately thinking, "They deliver, they get results, I want to work with them." That's the brand you want to build. That's where longevity comes from. That's what leads to word of mouth, repeat customers, premium pricing, and true impact. But that kind of brand, it doesn't come from surface-level design choices. It comes from deep clarity. It comes from knowing who you serve, what problem you solve, and how you communicate that every single time someone interacts with your business. Branding is built through consistency, through doing the boring, repeatable things over and over until you become known for them. And here's something else to understand. Great branding does not make up for a broken offer. You can wrap a mediocre product in the best packaging in the world. It still won't sell long term. Why? Because people eventually experience the truth. Branding might get you the first sale, but your results will get you the second. And if you're not delivering what people paid for, your brand won't survive, no matter how gorgeous it looks. This is why I say branding is built on execution. You build trust not by saying you're great, but by proving it. By solving problems, by creating transformation, by being reliable. When people talk about your brand, they're not just repeating your tagline. They're sharing what it felt like to work with you. That's what spreads. That's what scales. A strong brand makes it easy for the right people to say yes. It removes confusion. It builds confidence. It creates loyalty. But none of that happens unless you're focused on outcomes, not optics. Branding isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. Does your visual identity match the experience you're delivering? Does your messaging match your offer? Does your content match your values? People can smell the disconnect. They know when you're overcompensating. They know when the brand looks big, but the backhand is small. You can only fake it for so long before the market catches on, and the market always catches on. So if you're spending more time obsessing over your brand guidelines than your customer journey, it's time to shift, because your brand isn't built in Canva. It's built in the results you deliver, in the testimonials you collect, in the way people feel after they've worked with you or bought from you. Here's the test. If you stripped away all the aesthetics, no logo, no website, no visuals, would your business still grow? Would people still refer you? Would you still sell? If the answer is no, then your brand isn't real yet. You've built a design system, not a demand engine, and demand is what creates momentum. That's what gives your brand staying power. So focus on that. Build a brand that gets people results, and the reputation will follow. The visuals can come later, the polish can evolve, but the impact that has to come first. Because branding is not just about what people see, it's about what they experience. And if that experience doesn't move them to action, then it's not branding. It's just decoration, and decoration doesn't build empires. Execution does. If people don't understand what you do in the first few seconds, they're gone. It doesn't matter how talented you are, how great your product is, or how passionate you feel. If your message isn't clear, you won't convert, and conversion is the only thing that grows a business. So let's stop sugarcoating this. If people are confused about your offer, that's your fault. Not theirs, not the algorithm, not the economy, you. It means your messaging isn't doing its job, and the job of your messaging is to communicate who you help, how you help them, and why it matters, quickly and simply. We live in a distracted world. People are scrolling, multitasking, tuned out. You have seconds, literally seconds, to make them care. Clarity is the only way through the noise, and clarity comes from one thing: knowing exactly who you serve and exactly what problem you solve. When someone lands on your page, hears your pitch, or watches your content, they need to feel one thing immediately: this is for me. If they're not sure, they move on. If they have to think too hard, they leave. If they're unclear, they don't buy. Confusion kills conversion every single time, and here's what I see too often: business owners trying to sound clever instead of clear. They use fancy language, vague promises, industry jargon, or worse, they try to be different instead of direct, but different doesn't convert, clear does. Clever might impress, but clarity sells. If someone asks you what you do, and it takes you more than 15 seconds to explain it, you've already lost them. You should be able to say it with confidence and without a slide deck. I help do so they can. Simple, that's your message, and if that's not solid, your brand is built on quicksand, because clarity doesn't just help you sell, it helps people buy. Think about that. Most people want to make a decision. They're just overwhelmed. Too many options, too many voices, too many promises. When you show up with a simple, clear, confident message, you stand out. You become the obvious choice, not because you were louder, but because you were easier to understand. And clarity isn't just about your pitch. It shows up everywhere: on your website, in your content, in your sales calls, in your emails. It's the through line of your entire brand, and the moment it breaks, even once, you lose trust. People don't say, "Oh, I didn't get it, let me try again." They just close the tab. Here's the thing: people buy what they understand. So if you're not getting the sales you want, don't start by changing your offer. Start by sharpening your message. Look at your bio, your homepage, your call to action. Is it crystal clear? Would a stranger know exactly what to do next? A lot of times, people aren't saying no to your product, they're saying no to confusion. That means you're leaving money on the table, not because your idea is wrong, but because your communication is weak. And you can fix that, but it requires focus, simplicity, and the courage to stop hiding behind vague language, because let's be honest, sometimes we stay vague on purpose. It feels safer. If I don't get too specific, I can't be judged. I can't be rejected, but that's not leadership, that's fear, and fear doesn't build businesses. You have to be bold enough to make it plain, bold enough to say, this is who I help, this is how I do it, and this is what it costs. That's clarity. And that's what converts, not just once, but over and over. So audit your brand right now, strip it down. Would a 12-year-old understand what you do? Could they explain it to someone else? If not, you're not done refining. Because clarity is not optional, it's the foundation. It drives every conversion, every lead, every sale, and it's your responsibility to make it happen. You don't need more tactics, you don't need more platforms. You need more clarity, and once you have it, your audience won't just listen. They'll act, because clarity creates confidence. Confidence drives action, and action is what builds your brand. Let's just call it what it is. A lot of people aren't struggling in business because their idea is bad or because the market is saturated. They're struggling because they're avoiding the hard work of selling. Period. And until you face that, nothing else will change. You can keep rebranding, you can keep posting content, you can keep building out the back end, but if you're not selling, you're not growing. You're stuck in the cycle of activity instead of results. Selling is uncomfortable for most people. I get it. It exposes you, it forces you to be direct, it invites rejection. And that's why so many entrepreneurs will do literally everything except sell. They'll build a website before making their first offer. They'll write 30 pieces of content without one clear CTA. They'll launch over and over again with no follow-up strategy because deep down they're scared of hearing no. But let me be clear, you cannot build a business on avoidance. The business you want, the brand you want, lives on the other side of doing the hard things, and the hardest, most uncomfortable, most critical skill you need is selling, because selling is not a side task. It is the core function of your business. It's not something you get around to after the design is done. It's not something you delegate before you've learned it yourself. It is your responsibility, especially in the early stages. And if you're not doing it every single day, you're not actually building a business. You're just pretending. Now here's the truth that might sting. If you are actively avoiding sales, it's probably because you've made it personal. You've attached your identity to the outcome of a sales conversation, so if someone doesn't buy, you take that as rejection of you, but sales is not personal, it's a process, it's a skill, it's learnable, repeatable, and improvable. But only if you're willing to do it, hiding behind branding, hiding behind content, hiding behind perfectionism. Those are just symptoms. The real issue is discomfort with being told no. But rejection is not a threat, it's feedback. It's information. It teaches you what to change, what to improve, and what to double down on. If you avoid that feedback, you stay stuck in assumptions, and assumptions don't grow businesses, data does. You have to shift your mindset around selling. It is not manipulation. It is not begging. It is not being pushy. Selling is service. Selling is clarity. Selling is leadership. It's saying, I believe in what I offer so much that I'm willing to put it in front of people again and again until the right ones say yes. That's confidence. That's resilience. That's business. And here's another truth. You cannot outsource what you refuse to understand. If you haven't sold your offer, don't expect a sales team to do it better than you. You are the first and most important salesperson in your company. You set the tone, you learn the objections, you test the pitch. You refine the offer, you build the playbook, and then you scale, but not until you sell it yourself, and that takes courage, that takes repetition, that takes rejection. And if you're not willing to go through that, you're not ready to lead. So here's what I want you to do. Look at your calendar. How much time are you actually spending in revenue generating activities? How many calls have you booked this week? How many DM have you sent? How many follow-ups have you done? If the answer is not many, don't be surprised when your growth stalls, because this isn't magic, it's math. Selling is how you grow. Selling is how you learn. Selling is how you lead. And yes, it's hard. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But you know what else is uncomfortable? Watching your business plateau. Having a great offer that no one buys. Knowing you were capable of more but didn't push through. The brand you want is on the other side of doing what most people won't. The consistent, messy, honest work of selling. Showing up even when it's awkward. Asking for the sale even when it scares you. Following up even when it feels like too much, because the truth is it's not too much, it's exactly what it takes, and the sooner you stop avoiding it, the sooner you'll get results, so stop hiding. Start selling. This is the work, and you are capable of doing it. Inspiration is nice, but it doesn't build companies. Execution does. Everyone's inspired when they're dreaming. Everyone's motivated when they're vision boarding. But a brand isn't built by what's in your journal. It's built by what you actually do consistently when no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when it's boring, hard, and repetitive. Ideas are easy. Talk is cheap, planning is safe, execution, that's where things get real, that's where you earn it. And if you're not willing to show up and do the work every single day, no amount of inspiration is going to carry you. You don't build a brand by thinking about it. You build it by delivering, day after day, whether you feel inspired or not. Let's just be honest. Too many people in business are addicted to the feeling of starting. The high of a new idea, the energy of a rebrand, the dopamine hit of planning something fresh, but they never finish, they never follow through, they never stick with one thing long enough to see traction. So they mistake movement for progress and end up burned out with nothing to show for it. Execution is what separates leaders from hobbyists. You don't need more vision, you need more discipline, because real branding isn't sexy, it's structure. It's consistency. It's doing the things that move the business forward, even when they are not fun, even when they don't get likes, even when no one says good job. Your brand isn't built in the moments of excitement. It's built in the repetition, in the habits, in the calendar blocks that you actually honor, in the commitments that you follow through on, especially when it's inconvenient. That's where trust is built. That's where momentum is created, and that's what turns a small business into a serious brand. You want to stand out in your industry. Don't just be more creative, be more consistent, show up on time. Follow up faster, deliver better, make fewer promises and actually keep them. This is what high-performance brands do. They don't rely on hype. They don't live in launch mode. They build systems. They train teams. They focus. They repeat. Execution is what turns a one-time customer into a lifetime customer. It's what builds your reputation. It's what gets people talking about you even when you're not in the room. And that doesn't come from energy, it comes from follow through. And yes, execution is tiring, it's work, but that's why not everyone builds a brand. That's why most people stay stuck. They think branding is about being seen. No, branding is about being trusted, and trust only comes when people can rely on you to deliver, not just once, not just during a campaign, but always. If you're in a season where the inspiration is low, good. That's when the real growth happens. That's where you stretch. That's where you become the kind of leader who can carry the weight of the brand you're building. Anyone can act inspired. Few can execute without it. But that's where the winners are made, so don't measure your progress by how excited you feel. Measure it by what you've completed, what you've shipped, what you've delivered. That's your real scoreboard. That's the difference between a business that scales and one that fizzles out. Stop waiting for the spark, build the system, stop depending on motivation, depend on structure, get your head out of the clouds and get into your calendar. You want clarity, look at your execution. You want results, look at your execution. You want momentum, look at your execution, because a brand isn't built on ideas, it's built on decisions followed by action. Daily, repeatedly, relentlessly, that's the work, that's the path, and it's not glamorous, but it's what works, so show up, stick with it, finish what you start, and remember, your audience isn't inspired by your plans. They're inspired by your results, and those results only come from execution. You don't need another strategy session. You don't need another round of inspiration. You need to put your head down and execute. That's how brands are built.